What's up, everybody? This is Jerid from Echo Blades, and you are listening to the Triple T podcast for knife makers. As always, I have the most awesome co host, Mr. Denis Tyrell from Tyrell Knifeworks. But even more special today, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kumai Damascus and all sorts, Mr. Corey Baker from Baker Forge the Tool. What's up, buddy?
What? What's up? What's up? It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. That was quite the intro.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, Jerid in his radio voice.
I didn't even really do it. Ladies and gentlemen,
A little bit.
please welcome
Were
Mr.
you reading
Corey
that?
Baker.
Were you reading that off a teleprompter? Kind of looked like no
No, that's
teleprompter.
that's
Okay.
just my crooked vision.
Oh, so Coy, how you been? You recovered from Blade Show and all that shenanigans?
I am recovered. Yes, finally. That took a while. Of course, Blade Show is there's a lot of work, and there's always a long recovery time after that. So this year we didn't do anything after Blade Show. In previous years, we've had events or always had something planned right after the show, somebody coming out to the shop or whatever. This year I was just like, nope, we're not doing anything. We're going to go back to sleep. So we're all
Nice.
recovered. We're good to go.
So
Well, I mean, this wasn't a special, this was a special show for you, right? I mean, you guys did something for the first time, and I bet that was quite the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did a booth and we've never had a table. We've been going to Blade Show for years, but never, at least in the past, never really had the material stock, the product, enough of it to warrant having a table or a booth. So we would attend the shows really just to have a presence, to meet the makers, see everybody's work, walk the show, whatnot. And this year we'd upped production. We were in our new facility and it was time to have a table. And so we initially were going to get a table and then figured out, well, an 8-foot table is just not enough space. So we're just going to skip the tables and go straight to a booth, which ended up not being enough space either, because a single booth is a glorified table with a little bit more room behind you, and that's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little bit more depth is kind of what I got from it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, there's no more extra room
you
Yeah.
get the
for product.
signage in the back. That's the main thing you get, right?
You do get the signage in the back, yeah, because I guess with a table you can't like block other people. I think that's the
Yeah,
reasoning. So
it's got to be like 4 feet above the table or something.
right, right.
A
So
la
we
Brent.
had a blast. Yeah,
Nice.
we had a blast. It was. I feel like I met so many more people just because we had a home base for people to come see us. Because
Yeah,
at those shows, there's so many people, you can just completely miss people just walking the show. And so having a home base, I mean, we were probably 2, 3 people deep in front of our table or our booth the entire show. It was phenomenal. We had a great time. So we just got to go to a double booth next year. Give us a little more width.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And sales was good there at the show. You guys unloaded a bunch of steel.
Sales was great. I was talking to a lot of makers, and having been to a bunch of previous shows, I really think Blade Show is more and more becoming kind of a supplier show, really, because so many people that go there now are knife makers, not necessarily collectors or buyers. I mean, there still are, obviously, but I feel like the general gist of Blade Show is really becoming more on the supplier side and a place for makers to go get everything they need for the next few months, for their making. So, but yeah, we did great. We did phenomenal. Enough to where I was like, yep, we're definitely doing this next year. So,
Yeah, I totally agree on the maker thing that it's going to turn into more into supplies. And we've been
mhm.
talking about this on the show, like how my personal opinion, I think the market is contracting and I think we're going to have less makers in the years to come, especially Fortune Fires off the air.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it's going to be collectors and suppliers.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see as many like, hey, I'm just going to go to Blade Show and maybe, who knows, maybe a Blade Show will be an anomaly just because, but I think
I
it's
don't know.
going to contract a little bit.
It's definitely changing because the lack of or the Forge and Fire, not fallout, but the kind of decline of that, and as the interest kind of starts to resist, or, not what am I thinking? Just the dissipates. There we go. as it kind of just dissipates and the people who were getting into it as more of just a hobby, those guys are starting to maybe not attend the shows, maybe not make as many knives, and you're starting to get this divide where you've got the guys who went pro really need to aim harder and harder and start diversifying a little more because of the larger market. And you've got a lot of people who jumped in to just kind of play around, really start to fall off.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we'll see. Maybe it'll be a really slow decline, but I mean, I think we'll see. I jumped in right at the best time. Now I'm full time and everything's declining.
oh, but you got a lot more stuff going on than just knives. So
That's true. Yeah, a lot of eggs.
I mean, that's what I was talking about. Diversifying. That's the key
Yeah,
right there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
Yeah.
something to be said too for you, like for makers that maybe haven't been able to see, the steel, see what your, what the product looks like. For me, it's always really good to, pick something up, hold it, touch it, you know, do your thing. And especially with like
Mm-hmm.
handle material, like I'm one of those guys that will fucking drone on and on and on the interwebs and fill up my cart, but never actually check out. Right. So,
Sure.
uh,
I mean, it's a whole different ball game to see it in person. Anything
yeah, yeah.
material related. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I wanted to tell this story too, because you know we got there Thursday this year, as opposed to right at the witching hour like we had the past few years. So we got the opportunity to see people set up, and the whole facility, right, was like just a sea of white tables when we got there, right, which is weird to kind of take in. But so I ran into Coy, and you know for everyone else, right, you watch somebody go through this, like same thing with Dennis. I call it like this meteoric rise of, like you guys were here, and then all of a sudden, a couple years and excellent work and great products, and you guys just kind of shoot off into the stratosphere, right? But you guys are human, right? And I see Coy right before, and I'm like, "How you doing, buddy?" And he's like, Jerid, I'm a little nervous. Like, like we kind of tried to, we're doing something different. I'm kind of stepping out, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, get the fuck out of here, right? You're gonna kill it. I know it, you know what I mean? That's what I feel. But I love the humility and the fact that, every new process that anybody goes through, maker, vendor, whatever it is, we all have that human condition to have that, sense of fear and of the unknown and
Mm-hmm.
what's going to transpire. But that's
Yeah.
why
I mean,
when I checked in, I was like, "How'd you do?" And I said, "It was a waste of time." Where he goes, "Yep."
I was legit scared to death just because never run a table before. Now you have to be actually a responsible person at the show, and you have to answer questions, and you're
Oh
handling
yeah.
money, and it's like totally different ball game. And up until that day, we had solely been an internet company. I had never sold a product at a show, or okay, here and there in person with locals, but other than that, solely been an internet company and never had done any sales in person at a show. And so it's kind of it was very new. And there's so much to get right, from credit card processing to having the cash on hand you need for change, to
Yeah.
banners, coordination. We had a lot of guys there, which was a lot of help, really. I mean, that helped with the labor side of things, getting everything set up. But yeah, I'm really glad we did it. But I was definitely sweating in my boots on Thursday. So
It was cool to see, man. I'm serious. I was like, "Look at this guy acting normal here."
well, we had a lot of money invested at that point, banners and stuff, and flying
Yeah, I can
people in.
imagine.
It's expensive. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
and you
imagine.
how'd you guys ship all the steel there? Did someone drive or what?
most of us, all the crew that works in the shop, they drove because we all drove because we're only 5 hours
Oh, okay.
north of Atlanta. So the one reason we did Atlanta was because we could drive. Trying to ship that much steel and
Yeah.
product was just, that would have been a headache. So there's talks of us trying to do the Texas or the West show as far as having a booth, but that's going to be a lot more coordination trying to get a container, a pallet basically shipped out there, because this stuff doesn't travel well. It's not very light.
I could imagine. Yeah.
So your first time at a table really, like, I'm sure you answer questions all the time online, but like standing in front of, like, people coming up, What was the question like most people would ask you? Like, was there like one question you got the most, or anything memorable of like people would ask you?
Uh, let's. I don't know if one particular question stands out. Because we got a whole barrage. Most people had heard of us, and it seemed like a lot of people who were coming up knew of us, but had never actually used our product before, which was interesting because I
Hmm.
was wondering what the ratio would be of people walking up going, "Hey, check this knife out that I made in your material," to people going, "Oh, I recognize you. What do you do again?" Or I see your stuff online, but I've never touched it. And there was a lot of people who had never used our material, but knew exactly who we were, knew all the crew's names, all that sort of stuff.
Oh,
So
well,
I think
marketing works.
apparently, I mean,
I was
yeah,
gonna say because you guys do a bang up job of of social media and doing things. I mean, I was just watching the other day. You guys were something about like who's your favorite music artist, or like I mean, just the craziest stuff to get like real personal with all of your team members, dude. And that's
that right there, actually, that reel. So we used to do a bunch of those, like we call them question reels. We'd ask the crew a question. We each ask each guy the same question, basically record their answers. And we did a whole bunch of those like early last year, and people really seemed to like them. And then we kind of dipped off because it's kind of hard to get the crew all together to shoot those because they would record 20, 30 questions all at once. And then Waylon would break it down and make the reels separately and spread it out over the next couple of months. But it got really hard to get the guys together to do that without interrupting like production work. And so we didn't do them anymore. We got a lot of people who ask us at the show, like, "Hey, when are you going to start doing those question reels again?" Because those were always so entertaining. And I had no idea people wanted to see that again. And so that's why we picked it back up this week, is because people at the show kept asking for it.
oh, see,
Oh, that's
there you
awesome.
go. That's some good feedback right there. I mean,
I
who
don't know.
doesn't like to see all the Baker team do a pocket dump on an anvil? That was my favorite.
Yeah. And then you got Cole there who's bringing out
Yeah,
so much stuff.
I
The
mean,
dude
yeah.
carries so much in his pockets.
Singles, doubles, all kinds of shots. It was great.
Yeah. I was even shocked at how much came out of his pockets, and he's there every day. And
That's
I was still
crazy.
like, bro, how do your pants stay on?
Yeah, that's
A
funny.
damn good belt.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's good. At least, like, from what you just said about like people coming up to you at the show, some people, oh yeah, I saw you before, but not really knowing what you did. Like that. That's great. That's exactly why you want to be at the shows, right? Like, that's
Right.
new
Connect, make that
customers.
personal connection.
Yeah,
Yep.
cool.
Yep, for sure. And there was a whole bunch of that. We made a lot of new friends, and of course, we had some people coming up who had knives in their backpacks that they had made in our steel, who maybe were more beginners and didn't have tables or anything. And just being able to see their work and actually having Waylon right there with the camera, so we could actually shoot it right there. And I'm sure it makes them feel real good that we're really taking an interest in the work because we want to showcase that on our videos.
Yeah.
You know, and it
No,
was
there's
great for people to just bring that up to us.
yeah, there's something to be said for that interest that you guys have in seeing your product. But on the other hand, too, it's got to be what a feeling to have so many people, or even anyone, right, for that matter, right, come up and want to share their stuff, scared, new. I mean, and you guys got bangers on your team making just ridiculous work with this stuff like on the regular. So I
Yeah.
imagine that was a pretty cool experience.
It was for sure. And the guys get just as much of a kick out of it as I do because they spend all these days making the material, but they don't make any finished product. We don't make any
Yeah.
here. And so they can't see what it looks like until a maker takes it and turns it into something, and then it comes back to us either for photos or we see it at the show, that sort of thing. And so it's extremely rewarding. We're blessed by that. So
Yeah.
I guess I
And
really didn't think about that.
when you got, I don't think you do, but you guys don't do that like grind the corner of a billet or anything like that, so you can see the inside. You're really looking at, you can see like the top of it because you guys grind it, but you're not really seeing into the billet at all, right? You guys don't grind a corner. I know some guys do that.
we we will do that on test runs if we're
Okay.
testing out a pattern or we're testing out a layup and we want to see what it looks like. We will just grind a bevel into it, but we chop that off if it ever gets sold. It never goes on the finished piece. And typically, once we've nailed down what it needs to look like, they'll then just produce a run of it, and they don't do a bevel in every piece.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
So because once it's
So
repeatable, so.
Yeah, and you guys have you have the process down of how how you guys make that stuff. So I'm sure your process is pretty repeatable.
Well, it is as much as forging steel can be. There's always, it's not an exact science. One day you're doing something, you've done it 100 times, and suddenly it just doesn't work anymore, and you're like, "What's going on?" And we deal with that on the regular. I like to call it shop goblins. We blame the shop goblins whenever something like that pops up. So the
I'm gonna
damn
use that.
goblins were here last night. They fucked something up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's not a perfect process, that's for sure. And
yeah.
there's always
There's always
failures or lessons, however you want to look at that.
there's a lot
Um,
of elements at play for sure.
yeah.
So,
So how you guys liking, like, how long you been at the new shop now? It's been what, like 6 months or
since
something?
yeah, since October, November, somewhere in there.
Oh, so
Yeah,
like 8 months almost.
it feels like it's been 2 months. I was actually just looking at some old footage from when we just moved in, and I was like, wow, my beard was kind of short. What the hell? Um, yeah, it's been a little while. We're loving it. We're moved in. We're fully set up and loving the new space. There's at first it felt like it was too much space. There was a lot of walk time between this side of the shop and that side of the shop, and we weren't used to that much walking. And at first thought it might become a problem just because the guys were kind of like, this is kind of far away. We might need to move that over there. But once we figured out our layout and got things situated where they needed to be and created got our flow again, because the flow was totally different in the new shop.
Yeah.
Can't repeat what it was in the old place. And so we're set up now, though. We're running. We're comfortable. We're set up.
I,
We got plenty of room to expand. So
I get that flow issue even when I rearrange my own shop, and I'm only talking about 3 steps back and forth, and you guys are in, like, what is it, 10,000 square feet?
yes, 10,000 square feet. Yeah,
And you went from how many to this?
we went from 3,000 to 10,000.
Wow.
So it was a big jump. And I say
Yeah.
3,000, but we were sharing that space with Josh Morgan of Primitive
Right.
Woodsman Knives. And so not a true 3,000 because we shared space with him and he took up some room. It was tight. It was really tight. We had
Wow.
every machine we could pack in there and probably more employees than should have been in there working hot steel. It was tight.
Yeah.
It was time to move.
So I know you're either working towards, or have you got the second line already set up in the new shop? I know you were looking for some machines or something. What's the state of that now?
We're in progress right now. So as soon as we got back from Blade Show, things really rocketed. It's funny. Right as we got into the new shop, we really started to see a dip on the retail side as far as our direct sale to shop makers, homemakers. Um, and we compared it to our previous years to see if it was a expected dip. Is this a time when we should be expecting a dip? And it didn't line up. It was a new dip, and so not sure what it was attributed to. Went to Blade Show. As soon as we got back from Blade Show, our commercial side really started to go up. And so they kind of switched places. Originally, our commercial side was much smaller. It was always just a couple of big clients every once in a while doing big batch runs for them. And that's kind of switched now. And our commercial side has really jumped way up. And we went from about a 3 to 4 week lead time before Blade Show to 4 to 5 months right after. And
Wow.
so we started to really go, oh shoot, we got to really up this production scale or production line and get a second production line going. And so we're in the process of doing that now. In fact, next week I have a new Blanchard arriving, and I'm shopping a new press, a new furnace, and I've just made a deal on a new power hammer, a really,
So
really, really big one.
I think I heard about this one. What I'm fascinated by, like, the line. Like, what is
Mhm.
give me the order. Like, what are the machines on the line, and, like, how does a bar go from let's do the initial stack to ready to go? Like, what take me
Sure.
through it.
Okay, so first off, we'll start at basically the assembly table, which is right next to all the bandsaws. So steel comes in, they'll get the core steels cut. First, they pull a sheet because we have rows of sheets for orders or upcoming drops, and they'll pull a sheet, and the sheet will list these steels that need to be made at this certain size. They'll then go to the steel rack, and they'll pull core stock and cladding stock off the supply that we've already made. and they will cut it up into whatever size they calculate the cubic inch that the final bar needs to be, account for loss, and then make the starting stack. And then pile all those up. They'll go on a cart over to the welding station where they get all tacked up and they get handles attached. And then those will all go, if it has copper in it, they all go to the big furnace. They get loaded into the furnace. If it's just Damascus, they go into a WD-40 bucket soak, and those get wheeled over and set in front of the forges to wait their rotation. Typically with those, because they're not time sensitive, the copper ones are, because the copper will oxidize. The straight Damascus can sit in the WD-40 overnight for a bunch of hours if it needs to. And so they'll pre-prep a bunch of those ahead of time and then just pull them out. Each bucket will have an order in it, a 5-gallon bucket of WD. So yeah, they go in the furnace, soak time, heat up, and then they're ready for forging. And so typically that's either Cole, Jay, or Will. Jay does more of the management stuff now, so it's really just Cole and Will doing the forging right now. And they will alternate. They'll open up the furnace. One guy will take a billet out, walk over to the hammer, the big with the 350, set the weld, and right as he's finishing up, the second guy pulls a fresh one out, and they swap places. And so they'll do that until they're all set. And once they're set, they can go into drawing. And so they'll go to the other hammer, which has rounding dies on it, and it gets drawn out a little bit, and then it gets run through the rolling mill until it's typically just one pass through the rolling mill because it's giant. They'll run it through the rolling mill to the patterning depth.
Yeah. It's like a damn train.
So
basically,
okay. So you said it goes through the rolling mill to a patterning depth. Is that what you said? Like you're going to do ripples or whatever pattern you're going to do? Is that what you meant?
Correct. If it's not a billet, that's going to be just left as is, which we call our wavy, which is just leaving the ripples in it from the drawing dies.
Sure. Yeah.
If it's going to get a forced pattern, like a chevron, ripple, ladder, something like that, or raindrop, it's run through the rolling mill at a patterning depth. And that patterning depth depends on how thin the final bar will be. And so again, they've already made the calculations. It's on the sheet, what size these need to be rolled out to in order for when it goes to patterning, the depth is correct for the ratio of the layers. And then once it goes through all that, sometimes, depending on where it flows in the cycle, that's a really great stopping spot when they come out of the rolling mill before patterning. They can set all those bars aside and start another run, because patterning means they have to take the hammer that has the drawing dies on it, they got to swap it to patterning dies. And so it's that hammer now can only pattern. And so a lot of times they'll stop after rolling and they'll set the batch aside and they'll put a new batch in and do the whole process again and get them all to the rolling step. So that way they can stage several of them and then switch the hammer to the patterning dies and pattern all batches in weight up.
So you mean you have this is what fascinates me. I expected you to tell me you're using a press for that. So you're using like a chevron die on a power hammer and just striking that thing once? That is very cool.
They're cap dies on the cap dies going over flat dies on the hammer. Sure. Yeah. And originally, so that's how we do it now. There is a change coming on that. We are going to be switching to a press because I'm getting a 200 ton in that's going to handle patterning, because the die, we're limited on the width of the bars based on how wide the die is on the hammer. Mm-hmm. And we are doing a lot of wider stuff now. And so we need much wider dies. And when you go really wide, you got to put in a press. So we've always done it on the hammer because it was much quicker, much more efficient. And the guys can really control exactly how deep it is. And it seemed to work better that way for them. But we are going to be switching that to a press because we need wider dies, which we can't achieve on the current.
Again, I've used a power hammer exactly once.
That's one more time than me.
So this is the part that fascinates me personally. So how wide are the dies on your on that power hammer? Are they
the dies inches? No, the width of the die is 2.5 by 8 long.
Okay, that's what I meant. So it's 8.
Yeah.
So you're having to strike, like, let's say you're using chevron dies, so you have to match that up. Like you're striking multiple times, I'm assuming, to get the depth, and then you have to
a couple hits and then shift it up.
And then shift it up and hit. Wow.
Yeah. Huh. So, but they can typically do a whole bar in one heat. It's
Right. Yeah.
and that's the thing is if you're going to do it in a press, it has to be either powerful enough or quick enough, because that power, it just sucks the heat
Yeah.
out with a press,
Right.
and so there's kind of a balance there. And they found it be much faster for them originally to do it in the hammer. But we're going to get a much more powerful press that can do an entire 24-inch long bar by 6 inches wide in one go. So that's the
Good.
aim.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Jared and I made chevron dies, and they're great, but you got to have that billet super hot, and it's tricky. And the
Hmm.
hardest part is matching it up across, because you can't really
Right.
see it. Because that's why I
Yep.
was fascinated by you guys doing it on the hammer.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
It was
So then you're
It's there's
go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say that there's a kind of a steep learning curve with that. Almost all the patterning is done by Cole, just because there is a lot of feeling technique and knowing where your depth's at in it. And so Cole is kind of the man for that job. And so he pretty much does all the patterning because he's got the feel for it. The other guys can do it, as well, but Cole does most of it for production because it takes some getting used to.
So when then you guys are done patterning, why is that so hard to say? On the hammer, then you got to grind that off, right? So that's when it goes to the Blanchard. You guys
Yep.
don't do that
So
hot, right?
no, 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 it's all done cold.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
after patterning, the bars get straightened and then annealed. So
Okay.
because once they come off the Blanchard, they won't get heated back up again, because otherwise they would scale. And so all the annealing's done at that point. And also, if it's softer, it's easier to grind. So
Mhm.
straighten, and that's a lot of straightening, because the patterning makes it all kind of funky. The bar gets all kind of twisted and kinked. And if it's going to go from that stage to the grinding on the Blanchard, it has to sit perfectly flat. And so they just spend
Right.
a lot of time making sure they're good and flat. And there's another straightening process after they come out of the anneal. But yeah, straightening, annealing, and then they go to the Blanchard grinder. Well, they get their ends cut off, they get the handles cut off, so that way there's no junk on them. And then they go to the Blanchard, which currently is our bottleneck point, because there's only so much steel that can be ground on that Blanchard, even though it's a 3 foot diameter table, magnetic table, and it runs that up under a grinding head, so it can do quite a bit. But the guys can still forge way more than can be ground in a day. And so
Hmm.
that's currently a bottleneck. There's a shelf right next to the Blanchard that's covered in steel and orders that Frank, our Blanchard operator, he runs that machine all day, every day.
And how long does it take to grind, a batch on the Blanchard?
Well, there's a lot of variance based on what the material is.
Okay.
So if it has a copper Damascus cladding, meaning it's got the copper and the steel in the jacket material, then it's grinding both materials at the same time, obviously. These grinders, when you buy the stone inserts, you either buy them set up to grind a hardened material, a tool steel, or something super soft. They don't have one that'll grind both.
Hmm.
And so we spent some time finicking around with what type of stone would grind our material the best, because it's grinding a super, super soft and a steel at the same time. And so the copper makes it kind of gummy. And so if it's a heavy copper clad, those take longer. And you can offset that by just putting less on the table, so it has less that it has to work on under each pass. Or you can slow down the table so it spends more time under the grinding head as it rotates out. There's a bunch of little things you can do, but I would say in average, a a whole batch of like 30 can be ground in a couple hours.
Oh, okay. That's still longer than I thought, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and it's, again, if it's really thick bars, so it's a magnet table. So if it's really thin bars, they don't magnetize as well as a bar that's really thick, because there's not as much mass there. And so if it's a thicker bar, they can actually lean into it and run the machine harder and really hog the material a lot quicker. Because not only do we grind our finished pattern billets on this, but all our intermediary steps are ground on this machine. So Damascus bars are going to get ground and then restacked. Those get all ground as well. But because those are a lot thicker and there's no copper in there, those grind way faster, a fraction of the time.
And that's so counterintuitive to us lay people that the soft material takes longer to grind. That just seems weird.
Mm-hmm. It gums the wheels up, and when it gums up, it doesn't cut as fast, and you actually have to what we call rake the stone. It has a
Mhm.
built-in raker that you can swing out and run it under the stone and clean it out. So, but you have to move the whole table out to do that, and it just takes time. So it's slower with the stuff that's got a lot of copper in the cladding, which, if people are paying attention, is one of the reasons why that stuff is more expensive because there's more man hours involved in the making of it.
Hmm. So cool. So then it comes off the Blanchard. Is it like after the patterns ground out? Are those done?
Yes. Well, they're ready to go for kind of the finishing stages. So the finishing, he'll grind the entire batch, and then somebody will take the batch on a cart over to the grinding room, and they will what we call trim edges. So the edges of the bars will be all kind of crusty and gunky, I'm sure, as you guys have seen. And depending on the pattern layout, they'll actually rip those edges off with a bandsaw, or if it's just Damascus, they typically just grind it uh, a little bit to smooth the edges up. But anything with copper in it, they rip the sides down with a bandsaw and then clean them up to a Scotch-Brite. So they're nice and clean on the edges. They'll Scotch-Brite the finish again just to make sure it's smooth and clean. And then it will go to inventorying. And right now, Jay does all our inventorying. So he'll go through, it's a last step in the QC. So he inspects every billet. He re-straightens any that got a little bit warped on the grinder. Any that he finds flaws in get pulled, or he cuts the flaws out, and then gets a tallied list of how many bars there are, and he measures every single one of them, what size they are, and then he uploads all those to the pricing website system. So,
Hmm.
and then they get
Very
labels,
cool.
and then they go to the storage rack.
And then you start all over.
They
What?
start all over.
Well,
So
that's
how
easy.
many is there? And Jared, jump in if you want to ask something here, because I'll go on
No,
for
I was
hours
just
on
gonna
this
say
whole
that sounds
process.
so easy. Make more. Hurry up. Let's go.
So easy.
Yeah.
You get your ass over here. I'll show you.
It took 10 minutes just to go through it all. It's super simple, right? Yeah.
You've heard on the podcast Jared's notorious pull something out of the forge and stare at it for 30 seconds before he hits or
Yes.
does anything to it. Yeah.
That's how you get
Right.
efficient, Coy. I'm telling you. You gotta stare at it, give it eye to eye contact, show it that you love it, and then put it right back in because you wasted all the heat. So
I mean,
That's why he bought an induction forge so he could do that.
yeah,
right.
exactly.
You can heat up as many times as you want to, right there.
Yep. Yeah. It's all about intimacy, So
So how many then if any of this is proprietary, then let me know. But I mean, how many billets are you cranking out, let's say a day? Like how many what's the
It would be hard to count
kind
by
of
a day just because we have so many that are in progress all at the same time
I
in
see.
different
Okay, then
stages.
a week or whatever your range is.
Yeah, we calculated it for the last quarter. I think it came out to we're approximately doing about 200 bars a week right now.
Okay.
So it's and it again it varies because so much of they can make all the cladding material at a time. So multiple days might be just making prep material, and then there's a whole bunch of days of just
I
doing
see.
final pieces. So kind of gets lost there. And they're working on multiple batches all at the same time.
Right.
So
So because they'll
will a second line double that? Is there like a cost there? Like what's the second line gonna do as far as production?
it will it's going to depend a little bit. So if we just set up a second line to mirror the current production line, then it would effectively double production time. But what we're kind of playing with was if the second line is a more of a support line. So the second line spent more of the time making all the prep material or during doing certain
I see.
steps in the production to free up the machines on the other side to do a different step. So that way the a batch can go from start to finish a lot quicker through both stages where both stages are doing both parts or doing multiple parts of the same operation during the batch as opposed to it running its own separate complete batch start to finish. And so
Makes
there's going to be
sense.
some playing around there to figure out exactly which one does better. And it may end up turning into a mix of both. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be some interesting playing and figuring out. Like, you know,
Yeah. Well, and also,
this is like I hear Brent and Ryan and those guys talk about production work, and this is like that on like a massive scale, trying to optimize that kind of stuff.
and again, it depends on what's coming through. You know, if an order is for a whole bunch of mokame, you know, that's going to throw off a lot of things because the mokame has to be treated so much differently. Or if we're working a huge batch of that's something that's just Damascus, then it's not going to use the copper furnace at all, and the guys are going to be spending a lot of time at the forges, and so the copper furnace is going to be wide open, and so something else can be running that. Anyway, yeah, there's so many variables based on what's coming through and which orders we're working on. It could, you know, it's going to change on a weekly basis of what's running where.
So
That's
that
part of
200
Jay's job, figuring that
that
out.
that 200 bars, that's both for commercial and your regular market, or are you?
Yeah, yeah, it's a right now. So it was about a 70-30, where 70% was to the retail, and that was last year. But as we've gone into this year, it's pretty much flip flopped. It's about
Oh,
70 to wholesale, 30 to retail.
okay.
Not wholesale, commercial. When I say commercial, I mean bigger knife companies who are ordering
Yeah.
large volume, or
Yeah.
not even knife companies. There's other stuff being made right now. So
I saw a wallet.
Yeah, that's interesting when you get into like artistic stuff that isn't knives. Like I think you
mm,
guys have a massive potential market there when you start thinking about those things that aren't knives. I'm sure you
oh yeah.
guys have thought of a ton of this stuff. That's going to be fascinating to see where you guys go.
Yes. So that was a big push for 2024. And one of the reasons we brought on our first sales rep, we announced that in the newsletter, but we didn't announce it on Instagram or anything. But we hired an actual sales rep who is specifically hired to push us into markets that are non-knife related, or go after some of the bigger knife guys who don't know we exist yet. So, but more primarily to push us into stuff that's non-knife because, you know, as we talked about earlier in the show, the knife stuff is kind of up and down, you know, and we to hem ourselves into just that market would, you know, is not really a smart business move. And so it's been a long-term goal to be in a lot of other markets, and that's really been a focus for this year. So,
Nice. I got a question.
yo,
Out of the two dudes I'm looking at, who was the first to do the kumai?
I'm pointing at Koi
I
on
have
my
no,
screen.
I have no idea.
No, we talked about this on another show one time, or you and I talked about it in person, and I think you did it 6 or 9 months before I did.
Oh, okay. I remember looking on YouTube and at the time when I was trying to figure out how to do it and not seeing any videos online.
Yeah,
Obviously, this stuff's been done a long time ago. It's been done for forever, but um, yeah, I don't. I guess yeah, early 2020 or late 2019, I guess is when I started.
yeah. I'd have to go back and look at my first video. I'm pretty sure it's spring of 2020, and you guys were in 2019.
Gotcha.
Um, so
But we didn't
uh,
even know each other at that point either. It was like
yeah, I know
we
this is
got
we had talked about this years later. So yeah,
right. We got to working with this material completely on our own, separately.
yeah,
So I
no,
don't
that's
remember. Oh, that other company, Dion Damascus. That's the first place I ever saw it. And whenever I saw one of their products or somebody else using their steel, that's when I first ever saw copper in a Damascus blade of any sort. Figured I'd try it. Dennis, where did you first see it?
so the I'm pretty sure the first YouTube video that at least that I know of was Valhalla Ironworks. Um,
Oh, Alex. Yes,
yeah,
that's right. He did
Alex
do a
did it,
YouTube video.
and he wasn't all that successful, I think, in his first video, but he did it. I think he finally got it to work, and he had some issues, and I remember this is a interesting story because I'm on vacation in Mexico, and I'm talking to Spencer, Heavy Forge, Okay,
Mhm.
you don't. I don't know if you know Spencer, but he and I
Yeah.
don't even know Spencer that well at this point. But we're kind of chit chatting because we both have YouTube channels, and I'm like, "Have you seen Valhalla?" And he happened to see the video too, and I'm like, "I still want to try this." And we're chatting about how I want to do this and how we're going to each try it. And then the week after I got back from that trip is the first video I posted on that,
Gotcha.
which did okay. My channel was still small. It was this Bowie knife, the one I have the
Yes.
tattoo on. That's the one that really blew up.
That's the one I
And
couldn't ever get out of my feed. It just kept showing up.
Yeah.
It's
I
like, I don't know
appreciate
who this guy is. I don't know who this guy is. But that's not mine. I didn't make it.
That's hilarious.
yeah.
Damn
And honestly,
algorithm.
the only reason I ever made that knife a kumai is because it's the only piece of Damascus that I've ever used that wasn't mine. So I wasn't just Chad Kimmel gave me a piece of Damascus from Salem.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just going to use Salem's. I didn't want to make a knife that was just Salem's Damascus pattern. So that's why I chose to take that as cladding and do this pattern.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that one ended up really good. I was happy.
Nice. Very cool.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
those guys who just take stock Damascus and make knives out of them, those guys are real, you know, who needs them?
Get out of here.
That's a joke for anybody listening.
Oh shit, there's people. There's 3.
There's 3.
Maybe 4 now because I'm going to let people
on.
know. Yeah. Koi's on. Yeah.
www.bakerforge.com.
There you go.
So I want to know, do you have a favorite pattern that you like to make or like to see or you think is the coolest or like of the ones you guys make?
For a production pattern, I would say it's a tie between the W's core copper mine that we did with the high layer crushed W's or the Riptide, the original Riptide.
That's my favorite that you guys do is that Riptide. And that's a really hard one for us home smiths to make without the big machinery. That's a really tough one because that's one has the chevron pattern in it, right?
Ripple, but it looks like a chevron. Yeah.
Okay, but so that's a different die.
Yeah, chevron and ripple are 2 different dies.
Okay, yep. Maybe I didn't understand that when I was.
Oh, you
assuming
set me up, Denis.
We did a version. We did a version of Riptide. The Riptide Elite was in chevron originally, and that one it was a different. The layout was slightly different, and we used nickel shims and copper in that one. That one had chevron, but the original Elite or the original Riptide was in Ripple.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite pattern that you guys do. It's just, especially with the black core, it just looks. That's my favorite. That one pops the most.
That I would say that one's probably been our biggest seller to date.
Yeah.
That one tickles a lot of fancies. Yeah, we make a lot of it, a lot of custom orders for it too. So,
yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Jerid, do you have another question? Because I got one that's going to take a while.
Oh fuck!
On the spot, Jerid. On the spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got questions, but now I'm interested, and I hate when I'm interested in what Denis has to say. So, I think I'm going to let my question lie.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Coy and I talked about this. I think it was at Texas a couple of years ago, and I've been fascinated by this, and I don't know that you've talked about this on the air. So we talked about how, and I've said in many videos, don't do steel to steel welding if there's copper involved, because copper melts at 1984 degrees Fahrenheit, and you usually, I tell people you want to be at 2000 or preferably 2100 to forge weld steel to steel. You guys will forge weld steel to steel and have copper in the billet, and you guys do it, as I understand, around 1900 degrees. Is that ish? That amazes me that you guys can get, you have such success forge welding at that low temp. What's the secret?
So I don't for as far as getting steel and steel to bond with copper in there, I don't know if there is much of a secret to that. Yes, we do have a specific temp we work at, but it's obviously below the melting temp of copper because all our stuff, well, for the most part, all of our welds are open, so we don't seal the billets into cans or anything like that. And so, yes, we weld steel to steel at a lower temperature than most people forge weld. And the reason we kind of got into that was I was talking to Steve Swarzer years ago at a blade show, and I was talking. I don't remember what we were. It was something about around forge welding. He was talking about forge welding and different atmospheres and stuff, and putting stuff under vacuum. Getting all sciencey on me. And he mentioned that he had gotten steel and steel to weld in an open environment in an open forge as low as like 16, it was 1600 something
Jeez.
degrees. Properly cleaned, properly prepped. He had gotten steel to stick successfully at that low of a temperature. And so, me being me, I immediately went home and was like, well, this kind of opens up some possibilities to see what we can do. And this was a while ago. I think I was back in my garage shop at the time and started just playing around with welding steel at the same time as working with the copper in the bar. And it worked at the temperatures I was running it at. It just worked fine. And you basically, I mean, there's not really a whole lot of secret to it. You just want to get the billet to the point where the copper's not melted, but the steel is as hot as it can be, you know? And it works. I mean, you have to have the material clean. We have a pretty rigorous cleaning process. I know a lot of smiths who make Damascus and they don't prep nothing. In fact, I was shocked at first time I visited Jason Knight, and he had a whole bunch of stuff cut up, and he's like, "All right, go weld this. Let's get it in the fire." And I was like, "There's a lot of mill scale, and I think there's some rust under there." And he didn't care, and it went together, welded fine. Now there's no copper in there or anything, but we have a pretty rigorous cleaning process to make sure the steel is very, very clean when we're working with it. So I think that's more important than anything, is having very clean mating surfaces and very flat mating surfaces.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I agree on the cleaning. And I think it just increases your success rate. Like, yes, you can do it with a rusty piece of steel, but it doesn't mean, in your case, you don't want the whatever, even if it's only 2 or 3 percentage points. That's 6 billets in a week, right? Like, for you guys,
right.
that's terrible.
Yeah, we want to eliminate any potential variable for an issue. And so we clean everything really well. The copper really wants stuff to be clean. The bronze wants stuff to be really clean. Nickel doesn't care. Steel apparently doesn't care, but I've always cleaned my Damascus stock. It's just
And I've had this discussion with people of the grit you use just cleaning up the steel, even on, especially on the first grit. Like, I know some people will just clean it with a 36 belt. And I've talked to some other smiths, and if you want the really, really fine lines, you got to clean it at a higher, because those are the mating surfaces. And if you got 36 grit, you're going to have a fuzzy line. So you got to have nice, at least do a 120.
right. Yeah. So coming off our Blanchard, the Blanchard stones are 46 grit stones. So they're really abrasive. But if you just let it do a cleanup pass, basically, and it's just barely grazing, it leaves a pretty decent finish. And we've been able, from the comparison we've done side by side, it looks to be about a 120 grit finish.
Yeah.
So anything coming off the Blanchard is at about 120, and we clean it up with a really coarse, heavy Scotch-Brite to just knock any burrs off and wipe the face of the billet. And so 120 with a heavy Scotch-Brite, and that's as far as we take most steels for stuff. Not the copper. We clean that up.
But you're not prepping raw steel like for stacking like regular Damascus. You're not prepping mill scale on the Blanchard, right?
No, that just does just a Scotch-Brite.
Okay.
Unless it's really grungy and messed up, which is rare from our steel supplier, it's not typically an issue. It's just a gentle Scotch-Brite will clean it up and make it nice and shiny and smooth, and that's plenty enough for the steel.
Yeah, and especially if you're doing the Blanchard, that's like restacks. That's not. It's that first when you're doing the 30 layer. Like, that's where it really matters, I think, because those layers are going to get crushed down. You don't want them fuzzy.
Right.
You want nice and
Right.
sharp, right? So
Sure. Yep.
cool.
You know what you can do though if you don't want to cut up a bunch of Damascus? Like just you want to just, ease up and that process completely. You can go see our buddy Lawrence Lake at Maritime Knife Supply, where he offers the most incredible service that he will cut up all of your steel for, us people doing one billet at a time, and and he'll have anything else that you need for knife making supplies. He's got steel handles, pins, stabilized wood, 1, 2, 3 blocks, drill bits, carbide, end mills, grinders, calipers, heat treating, and he carries our boy Coy's
Gator piss.
Gator piss.
Yeah, boy.
And some Baker Forge and Tool products. So make sure you go check out Lawrence and tell him the boys at Triple T sent you. And I also am now going to report live, like I did before, where I, mentioned that in circa 1997, Lawrence Lake took off from the free throw line and dunked Jordan style, tongue out. He is now officially a part of the Canadian NASCAR circuit. And I watched him. I don't know if he won, but for this story, guys, just use, theater of the mind here. And his car, sponsored by Maritime Knife Supply, took the Canadian NASCAR championship. Sure.
I still gonna have to see this to believe it.
I'm telling you, it's true.
Did he post about it?
He did.
Facebook.
Yeah, on Facebook.
Go
yeah.
get it.
I'm not old enough to be on Facebook. Sorry.
Fuck, that hurt. Oh my God. Hey. Damn, Coy hit me with a banger.
Hey, he's younger than both of us, I'm pretty sure. So he's on Facebook.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. Good.
Oh, man.
I did not see that one coming. That was good. Yeah. So, anyways, it never happened then, Coy.
Well, yeah, I love Maritime, love Lawrence, great dude. We've got some more stuff rolling up to his neck of the woods as far as steel is concerned later this year. So he'll be getting a restock of some new stuff. So y'all keep a lookout.
Awesome.
And if you're at home and you don't have any of these fancy tools, but you're going to smack these billets together with a hammer, you got to go to Two Basterds, Texas Smithy and Supplies for all your hammer needs. You need a fat peen in your hand to be wailing on these pieces of Damascus. So go get yourself a great hammer from Frank and Nita over at Two Basterds. They got everything you need.
Ain't it
Frank is
grand
awesome.
to have a
Such a
fat
cool
bean
dude
in your hand?
I met him for the first time at Blade Show, and holy crap, that guy is awesome. What a character.
He's a riot.
He is a character. Yeah.
Yeah. Really enjoyed
think,
hanging out with him.
I think we're going to have him on in a while, maybe next month or something. I'll hit him up and get him on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Good dude. And good stuff. I love my fat bean.
I need a fat bean.
Yeah.
I love getting hammers from other hammer makers, and I don't have one of Frank's yet. So Frank, if you're listening, yo, hit me up. I need a hammer.
Boom.
Oh yeah, he's on Facebook. So
I wouldn't know.
I keep telling him, you heard about IG. No, I'm just kidding. Oh shit, man. Well, I mean, since we're at it right now, paying some bills here, when you've gone to Lawrence and you've beat the shit out of your steel with your fat pea and you got your finished knife and you want to make it all sweet and smooth, you better go and check out Travis Haynes at Pelican Paste and get yourself some hard wax, soft wax, some Pelican oil, and your hands are gonna be all beat up from all that manly work. You're gonna get that handsaw, get that
with your fat bean too long.
I love it. Yeah, take care of your peen machine and put some handsaw on there and get all that healing goodness. So, and if you're going to go check it out, go to pelicanpaste.com and you can use the discount code TTT10 for 10% off your purchase.
Another good dude.
Yeah.
Great dude.
Hung out with him at the show too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you could always tell where he was because he was always wearing an orange shirt.
Yeah, I know. What was
There's
that
no,
all about?
there's only a handful of people that get a pass for orange for me. It's Donnie Dulovich and Travis. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's a Florida thing. I think he's trying to be an orange or something. I don't like
I think it's like
Florida
a
orange.
Gator thing.
Gator.
It's
Oh,
a Gator
maybe.
thing. Yeah, it's gross. Reminds me of
So,
those Giants. So
Jerid, that's 3 sponsors.
that is 3 sponsors. Can you believe that? That 3 people actually thought it to be a good idea to come and hang out with us. And
How does the show already have 3 sponsors? I mean, how many episodes have you all done? Like 4, 5?
4.
yeah, well, 6 now, but
Yeah.
this
No.
counts as a
Oh,
double.
okay.
So yeah, 5. So
This is a
just
double.
turn it into- yeah,
Yeah, we're going to
Part
split this
2
one.
next week.
yeah, that's right.
This is episode 22. I can't believe
Oh
it.
shit!
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Well, I've loved it
really
from
good.
start. I've loved it from the start. It's a great show. Y'all do
I
great.
appreciate it, man. We appreciate the support, Coy. And I think it's probably a good time to introduce our now 4th sponsor for the Triple T podcast. And we're excited and through the roof to have Coy and the Baker team on board. And thank you so much for the support. And we're happy to be teaming up here because we love
Absolutely.
what you're doing. We love the product, and that's what we're about, is supporting and getting hooked up with good people that do good things. So
Well, as I said, I love the show, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I think I listened to the second episode first because it was the newest one when I jumped on, and I went back and listened to the first one. And I was from the get go. I was like, "Yeah, I really like these guys. We're gonna have to end up sponsoring that show because these guys are too good. The chemistry's great. It's hilarious. I laughed the entire time, mostly at Jerid, but yeah. So
it's true.
God,
I'm
no
a
love from
laughable dude.
Coy today. Jeez, I'm old. I'm not funny.
no,
Yeah,
I laugh at him, not with him. At him.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, at what I'm saying, because this is the value here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm no illusions. Jerid is the entertainment, whether it's on purpose or not.
Hi, I'm Dennis Tyrell. I do good things. Listen to me in the same voice every time. Blah blah blah. YouTube. No.
Oh, jeez.
I may break a little anonymity here, but I did tell Coy that I introduced him to Dennis, which he already knows. But I said, "Hey, this is my business partner, Dennis. He's old, so you may have to speak very loud because he will not."
And this is an IG when we're typing, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
because we're young. Otherwise, we'd be on
figured-
Facebook talking to ourselves.
You're right.
Oh man.
And then I had to name the chat just to make sure I remembered that line.
Right.
So
Yes.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You're a good sport, Dennis. I just
Of course. Of course. Hey, I'm retired now. You could call me old. Yeah, Friday was my last day at the day job. All I did was take my laptop and monitor to the office. And it felt really weird, especially coming back into my office because like my whole desk is clear because I don't have the giant monitor and the other computer. So yeah, that's been weird. Had a retirement party yesterday, which Jerid was gracious enough to send. What's
Before we get into this real emotional, very heartfelt, warming story, I do want to say that the discount code Triple T10 is now live at Baker Forge and Tool. So if
Yep.
you're interested in doing that, we highly recommend it and take advantage of that. And again, Coy, thank you. We are
absolutely.
absolutely.
Don't use those other podcast discount codes. Just use ours.
Yep.
Yeah, so much
TTT10.
TTT10.
Right? There's nothing easier to remember than that.
Yeah, so much easier. You could do it on the 10 key. You know, I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
No.
And if that code is used, then I get to throw in the special gator piss in that order, the stuff that Jerid so kindly provided for us when he milked a gator in Florida. It's more potent.
It does. It
And
has an extra bit additive of Jared's fear.
That's why Jerid
The-
really had the smile on his face.
yeah,
Exactly.
the secret ingredient there, tears of Jerid.
That's right.
That's a good promo. I can see Bobby take that picture of Jerid and then put the gator piss underneath. I want to see the milking. I want an update to that picture.
If we can get an udder on the gator too, that would be amazing. Yes, and collab this with the gator page on Instagram. Let's do
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
And make sure he has his pit viper lift off, so you know, flip ups too, because
that's right. That's right.
All right. Okay. That's it. All business is taken care of. Back to the good stuff here. Dennis is retired. Can you fucking believe that?
I know.
He's retired.
It's great. It just means I get to do what I want now. I can hopefully make some money at the same time and spend my days making tooling, making knives, and I'll give you the shop update that I have. Finally got to ship out 25 Sandshark sanding machines on Wednesday. Something like that. Friday. That was awesome, just to get all that crap, like get all that stuff out of my shop. I can actually walk around in my shop now. So that was nice. And then got the second batch of 25, should ship out probably Wednesday. Probably I'm shooting for Wednesday. So and then back to knives for a while more parts are getting created for more sand sharks. I'll be back to knives. So I'm excited about that. Got some cool knives.
On the sand shark, got a quick question.
Sure.
So do you vision making these in-house for the foreseeable future? Are you going to at any point maybe partner up with a bigger manufacturer to actually produce them for you? What's the game plan there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking to be a big conglomerate, so I will for my foreseeable future, I'm probably going to have them still made in-house. Keeps my son with something to do. So for a while, I'll probably make them. I mean, who knows? I mean, unless demand goes crazy, I'm still thinking we'll make them in-house.
Gotcha.
I think I can assemble one in a I mean, I haven't got it down to a science yet, but probably and we do them in batches, but if I were to divide it out, I think you can probably assemble one in 45 minutes. So with the profit on those,
Gotcha.
it gives me something to do,
Yeah, and you're gonna be looking for that now that you're retired. You got to find something to do.
Right. Yeah. But I have my little sales folder on my email system that has all like my commission requests, and I haven't looked in that thing in a long time, and there's a lot of commission requests in there. So I think I'm going to be busy for quite a while. Now, not all of those will actually pan out into actual commissions, but
what's of those emails? Do you get a lot of tire kickers? Do you get most people that reach out are kind of solid, or?
You always get the tire kickers, right? But this folder is usually like I've already weeded out the tire kickers. These are people that are interested, want to be on the list. And still some of those are going to fall out, right? But
they're aware of the price point and that sort of thing.
First thing I ask people, what's your budget? Just so they're, we're talking the same game and not,
Yeah.
But
I want gold and I want it for $100. Mm-hmm.
Or they just have no concept. Like they're looking at,
I know,
Chinese knives and they want those prices. But my first knife, I think I have one knife that is like one knife build that seems to be my nemesis, which is I've tried a Kumai Karambit 3 times and failed all 3 times. And I've made Kumai so many times, and I don't know why this build, it's not because of the it was just random chance that it failed all 3 times on this build. So,
Are you trying to curve the billet or something to go with it, or are you just
but
cutting it out of a wider bar?
but that's not what I failed at, was actually putting a curve in. The first
Oh,
time I think I was on my phone and not paying attention, leaked out some copper and it was toast. I think the second time, I think I had a weld issue. And
gotcha.
then the third one, I don't remember what happened on the third one.
Shop goblins got you.
Yeah, exactly. This is my shop goblin build.
It's a
So
real problem.
yeah. So that's what's going on in my life. Jerid, what about you?
I'm lagging out. I just finished this guy.
Yes, I saw it.
I am so stoked.
Well, tell everyone what you're showing us.
No,
Yeah.
that's not no,
Great radio.
Right here.
For everybody listening, it's Damascus.
Yeah, it's a low layer Damascus chef that I think it started as 11 layers, and but I ground this thing really damn thin, so I think it only I lost a few layers on it, but it's got a couple nice thick bands, and I had it etched out dark with black. I think we used gator piss, and then I sanded that off to give a comparison between the dark and this low contrast that ended up with, and the customer wanted to roll with that the low contrast look, and I think it looks great. I'm with how dark the Koa handle came out. I think it might have the dark black finish would have been good too, but yeah, that's I've been working on that one for a while. So, Coy, I'm not the fastest knife maker in the world, and it's pretty much I love to profile knives, but so to get something done and finished out is it feels really, really, really good. And this weekend was the first time that I was able to get back in the shop since Blade. All of this traveling, everything I was doing between work and stuff is the first weekend I got back. So, which is funny because we installed this AC unit, the Mr. Cool, what am I calling it? What's it called?
Mini split.
Mini split. Yeah. And Denis, through all of our great thinking, we put it in. I have a pretty large gap under one door that goes out. And anyways, Coy, it's about to be like hotter than Hades here for the next week or so. I think we're getting up to. I think I'm going to see 111 for like 3 days in a row. Yeah. So it's a smooth like 99 right now. Yeah. So this AC was it was tits. Denis, there was 2 like vents in one of the walls in my shop, and I don't know how I didn't see it. I don't know what the fuck they're for to get something out of there, but sorry. And there are two vents, and I didn't ever realize it, right? So sometimes I guess when it's 100, the shop wouldn't get that cool. So I turned the lights off and I look back and it's like still daylight in there. And I'm like, dude, what have I been doing here? So
you
I
have
had to
top vents?
No, inside the wall.
Yeah, no, I know. The top of the wall?
And below. There was 2 of them.
Oh.
And I only said
to the outside.
Yeah.
And they're to the outside, straight, just screened. Like a dryer vent cover on the outside. Don't know what it was about. The only reason why I know there was 2 because I only saw the one, and I filled that one up and turned the light off, and I was like, oh, there's another one. Anyways, those things are all taken care of, and what a difference. It's I don't know. I just want to explain to you guys if you don't understand. If you're running an AC, holes inside of the compartment in which you're doing that let the cool air out, it's not very functional. So take a tip.
You don't say.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, I was saying, I bring the value here,
Well, I don't have the vents on the top, but the vents on the bottom are normal. I have those, but mine are behind a piece of wood, and I don't. There's not much heat that comes out of those, and those are by California law because it's a garage and they let out carbon monoxide, all that bullshit, right? Because that stuff sinks. But I don't have the top ones, the ones in the, like near the ceiling.
Yeah, I don't. It was I cannot believe I never saw it. I'm serious. It was like a real moment. Like, how have I never seen this? You know. So, anyways, took care of that. So I was all nice and cool. And then I wanted to bring up that since we're talking about mind blowing new information, I cleaned the filters on my AC unit in the house too. The AC is working better now too here inside. So again,
Oh, I see what you mean. Have you
Another
cleaned
tip from Jerid.
right? Have you
this
cleaned
is
the filters on your Mr. Cool?
no.
You should.
I just actually ripped them open. They're pretty good.
Oh, okay. Because
They haven't got much use. So I'm never
all
in the
right.
shop, right? I'm barely in there.
In fact, that just reminded me that I need to go up there and just take some compressed air and just blow the dust off them, because I've heard that if you don't do that, you can actually ruin that unit.
Oh yeah.
You'll fuck up the unit. So
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah. It must be nice to have AC in the shop.
Yeah, what is it like with you guys when you guys have that crazy humidity and and the thing's running? Oh,
as soon as we got back from Blade, I threw a window unit into my office. So my office is one of the ones we had added to the building when we were moving in. It's inside the building, but it's completely sealed off. And I actually did a special type of insulation so that it helps soundproof it away from all the loud noise. That way I can actually have phone calls in my office.
Right.
But there was no AC in the entire place, even in the office areas. Because up here in the mountains, most people don't have any AC. Just because it doesn't really get hot enough around here for people to need them. We're elevation, whatever. But the radiant heat from the rest of the shop really started affecting the office areas, and I had to throw a window unit in mine because I was dying. But yeah, the rest of the shop, the open shop, has no AC. We have a lot of doors, so bay doors and side doors that we open up, and we've got giant, 4 or 5 foot tall fans that help move the air around. But it gets hot. It gets very, very hot. There's a thermometer thing, whatever you call them, hanging in the thermostat. There we go, hanging in the forging area. And this last week, it was just hovering around 115 for most of the week. So it gets hot over there. But in my office, it's nice and a breezy 67. So,
man, I I feel for your guys working in that stuff all day, every day. I'm running a class like 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, 2 different classes actually, of July. So in like next week. And I've told them, like, we're hit and miss. We're going to do this class because if it's 100 degrees, we're not, and they're Damascus classes. We're not going to be outside all day doing like we'll be dead.
Yeah. Well, so it helps when they run the vents over the forges. So let's see, start back all the way to the beginning. Okay. So originally the building was a furniture manufacturing place. And so they had an area in there where they would spray their paint, the paint booths, anywhere they sprayed their paint. And so those booths, they had 4 of them. And those booths have built-in ventilation and a pull fan, an exhaust fan that pulls air in and vents it out the top, out of the building. And so when we moved in, we retrofitted those and we put the forges and furnaces in there. And that way it can pull the radiating heat off those and suck it up and pull it out of the building. The only problem is they're really loud. And obviously it's kind of loud in there anyway with all the machines running, but these things are like obnoxiously loud. Like even if you're, when you're wearing your headphones, you can't communicate with anybody. So they don't run them all the time. And there's a noticeable difference. If they're running it, it gets nice and breezy in there and it really starts to cool down. But if they turn them off, it starts to heat back up really quick. We don't run them at all in the winter because A, some of it self vents out, but B, it helps actually build the heat up in the building.
I was gonna say, how many months of the year you guys get that temperature like that?
Oh, for it to be really, really hot in there, we'll only have it a couple of months out of the year. Pretty much in July, August, and then September, it's already cooling down again. So it's really not that long to have the really hot months.
And you guys are you're in North Carolina now. Like, how high up in the mountains are you? You guys get snow or?
Oh yeah.
In the winter?
Oh yeah. So we're in Boone. The shop is in Boone. I live across the border in Tennessee. We're depending on where you're at, anywhere between like 35 and 38,000 or 35 and 3,800 feet
Oh,
So
wow.
not crazy high, but we get a good winter. I mean, we get a good bit of snow. We'll probably get a couple storms a year where we'll get 2 feet in a couple of storms, and then the rest of it is just regular 5-6 inch snows scattered throughout the winter. So
Hmm.
the Boone weather is really weird, though. It's considered, technically can be considered a rainforest based on how much rain we get. Um, they don't call it a rainforest, but based on rainfall and precipitation, it could be considered one. And then it's also snowed every month of the year. So it's snowed up here even in August in the
Really?
past. Yeah, it's snowed up here every month of the year. Not in a 1 year, but
Right. I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah.
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, so our weather's really weird, but for the most part, it stays very temperate. It's not very hot. It doesn't get crazy cold like the way up north area, but it's very humid. Lots of humidity,
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
which
gonna
makes
say, man, you were speaking to me because eventually I want to leave this place, but the weather here is really the kicker. Like the
mm,
humidity is something that I mean, it's literally perfect temperature here, except for this
uh,
Yeah.
couple months. We get some hot bangers, but I mean, I'm 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from 10, 15, 20 degree cooler. Like it's that
mm.
you know
Yeah.
it's
We
that
live
good.
20 minutes apart, and it's usually at least 5 degrees cooler at my house than it is at Jared's.
Yeah.
Is that just proximity to? What is that in proximity to?
It,
Some sort of body of water?
mountain
Mountain
range. Mountain
mountain
range.
range.
Mountain range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's over
Yep.
a mountain range, basically. So
Yep.
it's
Oh,
hotter on.
gotcha.
I mean,
He's on the
hills.
desert side.
Yeah. Basically, he is.
It's weird though. I'm right near the water though too. I have Discovery Bay and I have the
Yeah.
there's all
That's
kinds of
just the
water by.
Delta. Come on. We're not talking like
Well,
it's
that's what I'm
like
saying.
San
The Delta
Francisco
though.
Bay, but yeah.
Wow. Whatever.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean, don't let it deter you, Jared. It's nice up here,
I don't
except
know,
for
man.
those.
I those that time I spent with in Florida.
Oh,
Every time
Florida's
I
not the same.
it's not that's a different
Yeah.
Florida's way further south and way more humidity.
way more
This.
humid. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's not. This is not anything compared to Florida or
Oh, okay. I
Atlanta.
was gonna. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, now you're speaking my language because every time I walked out
Yeah,
the goddamn door into Florida, I was like, "Oof!" I literally had to say that, like, "Ugh."
yeah,
like,
yeah.
God.
And he had to sit down. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
I'd love to hear Jared's voice when he goes outside and there's snow because he's a California boy.
The
So
best snow.
it'd
I've
be
been
You'll
to
oof.
get our
the
snow,
snow like 10 times, like ever.
but you don't get like snowed in or anything. It's never
All right.
incapacitating. So
There you go.
come on out.
I'm coming.
Hey,
Let's do it.
I'm definitely coming. Whether
Oh,
I
good.
take, I'm definitely coming. I just don't know when. I got to get this business underway and have some normality for a while. But yeah, I'm
Sure.
definitely. I want to come out and see the shop for sure. And
Absolutely.
my stepson, like we were chatting about, is only 5 hours from you guys.
Right.
So
Yep.
I'll probably go out visit him and then take off and go see you, and my wife will fly home or something. And
Would love to have you.
yeah, that'd be
Let's
awesome
plan ahead. If we plan
for
ahead,
sure.
we can maybe work on a project or something while you're here. Because I know we've been talking about doing some sort of collab work at some point, and I would love to do that at some point.
Yeah, that
No, you're supposed
we'll
to come out
definitely
this
make
way.
some content out of it, and we'll have a
Oh
good
yeah,
time, I'm sure.
I prefer you come out this way, Coy, because no, I'm
yeah.
kidding.
I
I'm
mean,
kidding. No.
I don't ever. The furthest I get to you guys is Salt Lake City for Blade West. That's the
Yeah,
furthest I get.
I'm totally
It's
kidding.
only another 10 hours
I
drive.
don't- I fly to Salt Lake.
I know.
Man, just keep on rolling.
So
Good deal.
I'm going to steal Jared's question here. What's going to be new? What's coming up on the Baker side? Anything you can we get a scoop here?
So new isn't like new products, I guess.
Sure.
Uh, I mean, so yeah, we're still expanding. Still growing. Got new tooling coming in, and that's mostly to help keep up with stuff that's coming in orders wise. Expanding in these new markets, getting the salesmen. That's all new. So product wise, I've been dabbling with a bunch of stuff for a long while, and the problem is most of the testing and evaluation stuff is all done by me because that's where my passion is just messing with stuff and doing new things, trying new stuff. And one of those things was the mosaic copper Damascus that we showed some stuff of right before
Awesome.
Blade Show.
Awesome.
Yep.
That was
Love it.
fun. That was fun. It kind of fell apart a little bit because we're having trouble remaking it. uh, as soon as we posted, I knew we shouldn't have posted about it yet. It was too early, but I was so excited about it. We posted it, and we had a company, reach out, and they put an order in for some, and we made most of the order, and then the shop goblins got in and screwed everything up, and now we're back to square one on that project. But more work on that because there's a lot to be discovered over there. And there's also a lot to be discovered on a kind of spinoff of that. And that's doing mosaic work within a canister with powdered elements of powdered steel and either powdered copper or solid copper components. We've done some in the past. We have successfully made a canister that was solid powder with a 3D print in it. And we had solid or just a copper powder, so the copper powder and steel powder, and we're able to solidify both at the same time into a homogeneous piece. And so that we know it works. And so it's just the application of that into a final product is kind of where we need to go with it. But was really excited about that specifically.
That's that's got the the juices flowing, just the powder, because I've done the 3D print one a couple of times, and it's a cool process. And I want to I still have this guy on my desk. This is like
Yep.
that I plan on doing. I just haven't done, but putting copper in that, mind blowing. I don't think I could get that to. I don't have the precision and the machinery that you guys do. But
the temperature
yeah,
control is where it's at with that specifically, because
Yeah.
you got to get it. You have to get the copper pretty much melty. I say melty, not melted, but
yeah.
it was a royal pain. And out of the block we did, the bottom third wasn't usable, and basically the top quarter wasn't usable. So there's a lot of waste to it. So there's refining that needs to happen on that. But so that's something we've been delving into. Obviously, we're always coming out with new patterns. A lot of that's inspiration from other people, other associates that we work with closely, guys like Jordan, JB Blades, Grayson from Gray Blades, guys like that who are always shooting a text to me and going, yo, put this there, switch that around, and cut a patterning die to make it look like a circle. And boom, they come up with something, and we start working on it. And it almost always comes out looking fantastic. Those guys have a very creative mind for that sort of stuff. And whenever they have an idea, we're able to turn that into their vision, kind of into what it would look like. JB came up with Riptide, and that was a hit. And obviously, sometimes they come up with something real stupid, and you're like, eh.
I get people all the time like, hey, can you? Because I've had people say, hey, make a mosaic with copper, and I tell them, you can't do that. I'm not you guys. Like, I explain why. Like, it's not. But they want it. They want it in a knife. I'm like, then you'll have copper on the edge, and that's dumb. And I've had people say, well, why don't you layer the copper this way and feather it? And I'm like, again, that'll make a terrible knife.
Yep.
So, have you guys ever played with feathering with copper?
That's been, man, I want that to work so bad, but the copper just cannot stand up to that shearing.
Yeah,
it can't do it, and no matter how we've tried, it's never worked. So I'm not opposed to trying again, but I'm out of ideas for how to make it work. I think there's just a limitation there that is not going to be easily overcome, just due to basic physics.
Yeah, one actually, yeah. I mean, if anybody could do the feather, be you guys, but I'm not trying it. That's like so hard. I do want to do a Kumai chef knife with an integral bolster, because you don't see those very often. So if I can manage to construct a big enough piece of Kumai that looks good, that I'll have to play with that. So I haven't seen.
We could definitely try that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a matter of getting your ratios right for that, because we've done integral billets in the past. We always just put the copper in the bolster, though, because that's easy, because you can just weld the bolsters on. But welding the bolsters onto a bar that's got copper in it, you've got ratio problems, because you got to make sure your cladding is remains thick enough through all the stages of grinding to put the bolsters on. Um,
Yeah,
Anyway,
I would start with really thick material, probably thicker copper, not crush the bolster as much, and then like
oh,
forge
draw it to
down the
tradition.
rest. I would do it that way. But I'm talking
We
me for one billet, not you guys doing production. So
When we started down the whole integral route, the reason we do forge welded bolsters is because we had a lot of trouble trying to draw it out of a block. Because we started there, because that was kind of our initial thought was start with a thick block and we just pinch out the blade portion and the handle portion. Um, Once you get to a certain spot, though, the pressure on the thin piece versus your thick piece makes it want to pop in that radius,
oh,
and
interesting.
it kept popping over and over, and so we kind of abandoned that. We didn't spend a ton of time working on it. We just were like, you know what, welding the bolsters on is so much easier.
Sure.
So we just
Yeah.
moved to that. So not saying it can't work, but we struggled with it. Just didn't like
Good
the
to know.
pressure of that radius for some reason.
Yeah. The next nut I got to crack is that stainless Damascus. That's I'll be working on that one again. Hopefully soon. We'll see.
That's something that's on my list. I need another furnace for it because I don't have room to play with it right now. But I've got my argon set up with my tubes and my cans and everything. So, is there a recording problem? Oh,
I don't
Dennis
know.
can't
No,
hear.
I'm fine. He's gone.
Looks like
Anyways, he's
You
lame
guys hear
anyways.
me?
So keep
there we
going.
go.
No.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I was
don't hear
talking nothing
anything
but
right
good
now.
things about you, Dennis. I swear. I didn't say anything bad. Yeah. Okay.
Right on.
So, all right. Well,
Well,
I
while
don't know
Dennis
what's.
fixes his computer,
Yeah. I
That was weird. I'm
have.
back.
Oh,
My stupid computer, I accidentally hit the Siri button on my MacBook, and then I guess it was trying to record my voice, and I can't hear you guys anymore. It's like, what the fuck? Sorry. I missed the last 10 seconds. What were you guys saying?
that was. I said we didn't say anything bad about you. Not one
yeah,
thing.
You liar.
Nope.
it was all kisses and butterflies.
Yep. I was like, I'm so happy he's retired. I can't wait to see what he's gonna do. Like, he's so deserves this. Like, I mean, it's
That's when you poured
beautiful.
out all the emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it never happened again. No. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
yeah, I don't know what we were.
I was talking about the stainless because you mentioned stainless.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I spent some time talking with
Will?
the artificery. What's his name?
Will.
Will Brigham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah. He's a wealth of knowledge. That dude, genius. Yeah, that's something I'm definitely going to dive into, and of course, we're going to try to put copper in there somehow. Don't ask me how. I don't even know, but we're going to start with just stainless Damascus because there's a huge portion of the knife market who strictly use stainless steel and won't touch carbon steel for obvious reasons. Everybody knows why. And so we kind of want to tap into that. And easy way to do that is to make stainless Damascus, although it's not very easy to make. It's kind of painful and laborious.
But I think once you guys figure it out, so you guys don't use any kind of nitrogen purge or anything like that in your ovens today, right? You don't do any of that.
No.
Yeah.
No, but we will obviously with stainless. I'm going to start with just doing them by the billet, with a welded tube to a tank,
Right.
doing them per bar. But we'll eventually, for production, have to purge an entire furnace of some sort. We'll actually probably move to a hot press furnace that does all the pressing and heating all at once. Does all the fusion bonding.
Cool. I was going to say, because what do you do when you pull it out? Then it immediately oxidizes and you're screwed. But I see what you mean by.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Have you ever seen those machines?
No.
Oh, they're super cool. They're built for more like the aerospace and medical industry for fusing parts together when they need super high tolerance and they need zero change to the surface of the material, no oxidation or scale.
Right.
And so, this company I've been talking to on and off for the last year, they custom build them to whatever you need it to be set up for. But basically, it's a heated chamber, kind of like a kiln, and it has a ram top and bottom that has a hydraulic press basically, and you can program it to press at a certain time in the schedule or at a certain pressure. So basically, you would load a bunch of billets into the plates, and the press would put tension on them. It would heat the box. You can purge the box of air with a vacuum or nitrogen or both, argon, all that, and increase the pressure as they heat up to whatever temp you run. And you program this all into a cycle like you would a kiln. And so you basically just stick all your steel in there, hit go, and it presses it, heats it up, diffusion bonds everything, and then opens up, cools down, and is done.
What is that thing worth?
The base model starts at $500,000.
I was going to say, it's got to be something like that.
Yeah. They're expensive and they're huge. They take up a lot of space. There's a lot of complex stuff with, bells and I don't even know, engineering stuff. But once you have it set up to run, that would be massive step in the right direction for production. Anything copper related or stainless, you could do regular Damascus in it too. They were trying to sell me on a newer version where the heating elements didn't come from elements inside the furnace. It came through the electrical. What do they call it? Basically, how you have your
like a coil for an induction forge.
It's like an induction forge, except that induction comes through the rams of the press.
I see.
And induction heats up what's between them, and
makes
so
much more sense.
Yeah. So, and they said their cycle time for that to heat up, diffusion bond, and come down 1 hour for whatever you can fit in there. It was 1 hour to bring it from cold room temp, you put it in there, to cold enough for you to take it back out and it not oxidize. So that would be incredibly efficient for running batch work, but I just have to find $500,000, actually more, because I wouldn't want the base model.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. I mean, to see you guys go to that level. I know we're all rooting for you because
oh, thank you.
I mean, like Damasteel is, I think, the only production stainless out there, and it's I'd love to see an American company go for it, and I think it would be wildly popular, as popular as your copper steels have been. I think it would be crazy. The commercial aspect to that as well.
Yes. Well, and you could do anything in it. You can do powdered stainless. You could do titanium. You could do these materials to copper. It would just be a matter of going, what temperature does it need to be? All right, that's it. Because there's zero oxygen. And you can put a vacuum on it, which really increases your chances. Now you don't have to heat it up so hot. With the higher the vacuum, the lower the temp you need to burn it at. So
you're a mad scientist.
Not yet. Down the road.
He's mad. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I'm mad. Definitely mad.
Well, I'll do my part for that $500,000 plus. I'll go back to Florida and do a special batch of gator piss again for you.
Yeah,
my man.
That's right.
We want the special stuff. The
right.
The hand
milked.
Hand milk fear based. Yes.
I still say you should have a gator petting area at Blade next year. Have a little corral with a gator in there.
I don't think the Blade Show execs would no, that gets kicked out.
This is one of those permission versus
forgiveness.
Yeah.
We are going to do some more with the gator piss stuff at the show next year. We're actually going to be teaching one of the classes in the classroom.
Totally. Yeah, you guys should totally do that.
Yeah. We reached out to them right after we got back, and we're like, hey, what do you think about? Well, I didn't even know how to approach them for doing that because I'm not in that circle with the Blade Show people. So we just sent them an email, and they responded like, hell yeah, that sounds like an amazing idea. Let's set it up. Yeah. So that's cool. We'll have a class at Atlanta next year.
The number of Blade shows I've been to, I've never got around to taking a class even once. I'm too busy wandering around the show, but I might go to that one if you guys have it.
I walked into a random one year. I don't remember which show it was at. Just because I was looking for Steve Swarzer's class because he was teaching something on Damascus, and I was like, I got to swing in and see what he's talking about. And I walked into one where they were teaching sharpening, and felt awkward because I stepped in and everybody kind of looked, turned around. And I was like, oh shit. And so I just sat down, bored me to death for 4 minutes, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna slip out because this is so boring.
But
Agreed.
don't you have to pay for those classes?
Yeah, I didn't pay.
Oh.
I was just looking. I was just gonna peek into Steve's. There wasn't anybody standing there.
Oh. Yeah, I honestly have never. There's always one that I want to go to, but
Yeah, same.
I never get my ass in gear enough to,
Yeah,
put it on a calendar and actually go. I'm like
right.
talking to someone at the table or something. But
Yeah, same. I rarely. I don't go in those.
yeah.
Just too much going on.
Well, speaking of talking about people, Jerid, let's do the maker spotlight. Who you got this week?
Sure. I have a gentleman. What? What? Hold on. I'm having to go ahead. Do yours.
Okay.
That was weird. I hit the link and it told me I need to be 21 and older to see it. First time I've ever seen that.
Wrong website, Jerid.
Yeah,
Fuck.
exactly.
You said
Jerid,
spotlight.
This is a family show.
I'm trying to shake things up here.
Oh boy.
I am going to talk about Strickland knives. This is Alex Strickland. He is a journeyman. He's actually a full-time welding instructor. That's what his bio says. But if you go to Strickland Knives, he's doing some crazy Damascus. So a beautiful. His third post in is just this beautiful explosion. Seems like an explosion to me, but just some really nice Damascus work. I see he's working on a Quillen dagger, a few posts down, some really nice work. And then I looked up and he's got 610 followers. I'm like, how is this possible? Looking at this guy's work, just really, really nice stuff. So yeah, go check out Alex Strickland at Strickland Knives, and yeah, give him a follow. Check him out.
Yeah, he's got some phenomenal Damascus.
Yeah. And like down, further down, he's got a clamshell. I think it's a guard. Just some really nice work. So good job, Alex.
Yeah.
We're loving it.
Yeah. That's amazing to me how that works. I have Rocco Handmade Knives, Brian Naraki. And I picked this guy, Denis. I want you to look through his stuff here. And it does not speak Jerid likes, right?
No, it does
Own
not.
handled, right?
It
Okay, you're
does
catching
not.
me. It does not. But I saw this hunter and this hatchet with the antler and the handle material combo. I think that's fucking awesome. And it seems to be a theme that he's got going on some of the stuff. So I have found an antler type of
Wow.
bone
Never
handled,
say never, Jerid.
and I really, really like it. So I was like, I have to bring this up. And he's got 3,758 followers, and it is Rocco, ROCCO Handmade on IG. Make sure you go check him out and show him some love.
Yeah, I see a bunch of his knives where he uses the part of the antler where like two tines kind of separate, and he uses that as the butt of the knife, which I think is really cool, because I've seen guys try to use that section as, and it just sometimes it's just too thin and it looks goofy, but the way he's done it as using that as the butt, and then the rest of the handle is some other, like whether it's G10 or synthetic or whatever it is, like that's a great use of that material.
Yeah, I'm digging it, and I'm generally not my favorite thing in the world, but I was like, that's really cool. So I thought I'd give him a shout out, and
I was
Share
not
that one.
following Brian, so now I am. Brian Naraki. Rocco Handmade. Cool.
Nice.
All right. And then I guess the last business here is your the Triple T. So how did that go? I didn't watch it. Middle finger. No,
I saw that in the notes, by the way.
if I'm nothing, I'm honest, buddy. So I had to make sure. We
Um,
talked about it plenty. So, but
yeah. So I'm redoing. I'm telling this for Koi, but I'm redoing this intermediate series where I take people through like in depth, step by step, how to do a hidden tang with a guard, and I've done this intermediate series before, but I thought I would refresh it and go through it again. And I'm making a buoy, but I thought I would differentially heat treat it. And of all of the issues or of the times that I've had a crack on a knife, 95% of those are from a differential heat treat, just because the stress on the blade is different than the spine, and that's where you can get cracks. Sure enough, came out with a beautiful Hamon, really nice, lots of action in it, but had a crack that was halfway up the blade, halfway down the blade. So, yeah,
Can't use it
differential.
now.
No, it's garbage. Now I got to redo that. I'm gonna keep that video, put it up as a fail. This is what happened.
Right.
This is how
Part of the
not to do
process.
this.
Yeah.
hey, that's my job.
Yeah. And now I got to like make the knife and get up to that point for this week's video. So I'm going to be busy along with doing these sand sharks. But yeah, differential heat treats can be a finicky bitch. So
how you gonna fit all that in with a job and everything? That sounds like a lot to do. Oh, that's right.
That's right,
You're
baby.
retired. Damn. I guess Coy and I'll just go to work tomorrow. I mean, fuck it. I guess.
I know.
Whatever.
Yeah. Back to it.
Hey, his work is the same as mine. It's playing with stuff that he loves. So I'm sure
That is true.
There's work involved too, but
My job is so much more office work now, and I never envisioned it heading that direction. And just one day I woke up and was like, well, shoot, I'm going to go walk into the office, and then I'm going to walk out the office at the end of the day, and I'm not even going to touch a hot piece of steel because that's my life now. Not every day, but still. I started this making everything day in, day out, and being on the shop floor in the heat, touching every piece. And as things grew, things changed. And that's sad sometimes. But
you're the big boss head honcho, man. You got the business stuff to do now.
the business side is really like that's really what I love to do. I love the business side of things. I love forging, but
and I think that's why you guys are so successful, because let's face it, most of the makers suck at the business side, and that's why they have the most problems.
right.
And I am certainly not immune to that. So that's where I'm going to have to invest some time on the business side.
Yeah, it's a totally different beast. A lot of these people that get into this on more the art side, as a craft, and you very much need that artistic mindset when you're creating stuff like this. But artistic mindset that gets you nowhere in business.
Starving artist.
Starving artist. That's right.
And stepped on. So passed up. All those good things.
Yeah. That's one thing I love to do is I love talking business with knife makers, and because getting the vision for their side of things, because we supply knife makers, but the business looks different from them on their part of their side of the equation, their side of the table. And I don't know, I live and breathe business, so that's my jam.
Nice.
That's good. All right, man. Hey, we got Koi. You got anything else? Where can people find you? Let's do all the socials.
Everywhere but Facebook, apparently. No. Baker Fortune Tool on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Whalen posts all of those. Getting a lot of traction over on X, the old Twitter, or the new Twitter, I guess.
Oh, right.
There's a nice knife maker community growing over there. Definitely a very different platform than I think most people are used to, but also on YouTube, Baker Forging Tool over there. We're going to be trying to do more content over there. But as I'm sure Dennis knows, long form content takes a lot of time. And I don't like sitting in front of a camera that much. So
You know, it's amazing when you're having a good time and you're talking and we're having this great conversation and everything. And again, this is why I do the notes, Dennis. And one note that I failed to put on here and something that I need to hear a little bit about, Coy, is the Baker Forge and Tool social media app. Like,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
oh
I mean
yeah,
that is something that I think Coy, give us the quick rundown on that.
yeah,
And how
absolutely.
we can how people, if they're not already getting it, how can they get started? What it's about? What it can do?
Okay, so first off, it is available on Apple and Google Play stores. Um, we launched the app for multiple reasons. One of which we've been working on it quite a while. Initially, the first reasoning was we wanted to diversify our marketing and not rely so dependently on the social medias, whether that be Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Um, Obviously, those platforms are getting more and more fickle as time goes on, with people who like to make short, stabby things. And so we wanted to diversify ourselves a little bit and have a place to be able to reach our customers directly without having to rely on third party apps. And so as we were developing that, then came along the whole concept of, well, hey, what if we just took this a little bit further and we actually created a community side to the app? So it's not just a place to buy the steel, but it's also a place where we can have groups. You can have a social media component to it where people can post their work. And we, of course, since we own it, we can say, hey, you can post whatever you want as far as knife related stuff. We're not going to censor anything. We can set up the quote unquote algorithm however we want. There is no algorithm, it's just timelined. So newest stuff at the top, oldest stuff at the bottom. That's how Instagram used to be. But we added that into it and we started really liking how it was looking. And so that really became more of the driving force because the market really seemed to need that. It needed the knife makers were looking for a place to go. Now, not to say ours is the end all be all, um, and it's of course it's a new app, so there's limitations. It's not as full of cool little gadgets as Instagram is, but
Right.
it is not censored. It is free to download, and when you get in there, you can click on the social, and you can create your own company page on the app, and you can rep all of your own stuff. You can join other groups and post your stuff in those groups, and it's free and open to use. No censorship, no algorithm that's going to bury your stuff. Um, the launch went really, really well. We had thousands and thousands of people download it and jumping on it, and groups created and whatnot. Quickly found some bugs that we needed to work on our system. We're not programmers by any means. I had, of course, people helping to build that back
Right.
end.
Right.
Um, but there's, of course, bugs that need to be worked out. So still working through a couple of those. Most of them have been ironed out already. But um, we had a weird issue with the notifications. Notifications went haywire on us, and a bunch of people were getting notifications about people joining groups that they were not associated with, but they would still get a notification. Anyway, most of it's
Hmm.
all been fixed though.
Okay.
You're talking my language. Software bugs.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. You know way more about it than I do. I'm tech illiterate, so yeah, it was really good. You know, it's an easy place for people to buy the steel. It's so much easier to use. The feedback we got on that aspect particularly was it's way too easy to buy your steel now. It's dangerous now because it just you just click on it and before you know it, you already paid for it. It's already paid. It's already in there.
That's awesome.
It's a much cleaner process than the website, which is a clean process already, but it's just so much faster and easier on its own app. Um, and it's very easy for knife makers to pull up if let's say they're standing at a show and they're talking, they use our material and they're talking to a customer about a custom build, or even if they're online, they need a screenshot of a particular type of steel that they're trying to sell their customer on. That was something we had a little bit of, we were getting feedback on from people was, hey, we want to showcase a certain pattern, but I can't find it on the website. I don't remember what the name was, but it's really easy to do that in the app because it's all in there. It's all intuitive and fluid. So it's a lot easier for people who are quoting jobs using our material to just pull up the app and go, boom, there it is, and show it to the customer. So Anyway, yeah,
Nice.
that's kind of the short and dirty on the app, the Baker app.
Well, while we've been talking, I actually finally downloaded it. I've been procrastinating on that, so I'm in.
There you
I'm
go.
on.
Yep.
Right on.
Welcome, Dennis. We
Welcome.
welcome you.
Yeah. Now
Open
the
arms.
1500th way to get a hold of me, it feels like.
Right. Well, so
Absolutely.
people, you can go on now and you can find Dennis's channel and his page over on the Baker app. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be a triple T set up there here. An Echo Blades, and then that's all you need. So
Yep.
buy some steel and go check our shit out.
That's right.
Yep. We still do have the groups set for manual approval, so we do have to, on our end, approve the groups before they're officially launched. We set that up just because we weren't sure how many weird groups people were going to try to create, or like spammers and stuff. Then ended up not being a lot, but that's
Still
just
probably a
to
good
weed
idea.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to weed out the packy guys. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I think this is our longest podcast to date, Jerid.
There's no thinking about it. This is the one.
Yeah.
We waited
Well,
all
that's
this time,
great.
number 22, to bring our boy Coy on and break records. That's what
Right.
we did.
What did we hit? I don't see a clock on this end.
An hour and 50 minutes.
Oh,
51.
that's a long one.
Yeah. An hour
Dig in,
50
guys.
You almost could break it up into 2 parts.
I know.
Yeah.
We're not going to.
Yeah.
It's been so great having you on, Coy. And of course, thank you so much for joining us as a sponsor. We'll be looking forward to talking about your stuff. And yeah, let us know if there's new stuff you want to talk about or you want us to talk about. And yeah,
For sure.
Keep the chat going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just remember to speak loud, okay? That's
Yep,
all.
speak loud. Got it. Type loud too.
Yeah. Always good to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, likewise. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much for having me on. It was a blast.
All right. That's it, folks. Thanks.
And that's a wrap.